Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to new listeners as well. You can help us out by giving us 5 stars, leaving a review, and sharing it with 2 of your favorite colleagues or educator friends today. We are proudly Canadian, celebrating the amazing careers of superhero teachers. Thanks for your support. Oh, and one more thing. If you're loving the stories, you know you too can plan a holistic retirement. My 3rd book launched today. It's called Retirement, Fresh Starts and New Beginnings, and it's available on Amazon. Let this be your guide to mapping out the next stage of your life. You're worth it. That's Retirement, M-I-N-T, Fresh Starts and New Beginnings. Another exciting episode starts now.
And there's a lot of conversation in it about ungrading as well. And we really focus on learning rather than just sorting and ranking students. So I think that's an important component.
Theresa exemplifies what it means to be a lifelong learner. And with over 30 years experience as a teacher, consultant, teacher leader, and vice principal, it's no wonder she has collated the practical advice into a book. In this episode, Theresa shares what she misses most about having pivoted from full-time work and what she loves about working with colleagues at the Faculty of Education. And it all starts now.
Welcome to 85 After School. I'm your host, Nicole, and this is the podcast about teacher career and retirement planning through real-life stories of those who live it. It's my great pleasure to welcome our next guest, Theresa. Theresa, welcome, and thank you for accepting the invitation to be part of the show today.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm looking forward to conversation about teaching and retirement and all the good things.
We are truly blessed, but I want to roll it all the way back to when you felt that calling to teaching, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe you can share what brought you to the teaching profession.
I always wanted to be a teacher. I grew up in a household where we read a lot of books. We went to the library all the time. I loved school. And growing up, I grew up in Scotland, and I really appreciated all of the things that we did at school. I had a lot of fun there. And then when I came to Canada, that sort of shifted for me. I didn't feel as comfortable. So it kind of took me a while to get back into the rhythm of being a student. But I always wanted to be a teacher.
How old were you when you moved from Scotland to Canada?
I was 11. So it was a bit of a tough transition. I'm the youngest of 7 and the first of my family to go to university. So that was a big deal. I think I had the expectation that I needed to do well as a representative of my family. Education was always valued. And I think that's really important.
So as a little girl in Scotland, you have fond memories of being in school and then a little bit of a tougher transition at the age of 11 here in Canada. Did that play a part in you really choosing to be a teacher?
So because I didn't feel like I fit in very well when I first arrived, because I was 11 and I had a Scottish accent and I just didn't know my place. And school was very different. I don't know, open, loose, but a lot less structured than education in Scotland at the time. So I felt a little like I didn't know what I was doing with myself.
A little lost, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. And also they put me a grade behind when I came, and then the next year they moved me a grade ahead. So I couldn't quite find myself. Anyway, finally, I think in grade 11, I had the best teachers ever, and I loved the English teachers in the English department. So that's really when I decided, yeah, I could do this. This is what I want.
And sometimes it just takes one semester experience with this inspirational teacher or someone that you admire, the way that they can engage your curiosity, that leads you to a certain pathway in life, isn't it?
Yeah, well, my English teacher in grade 11 was Miss Tyson, and she was an English and drama teacher, which I ended up becoming. And I loved Shakespeare. And we read Henry IV, Part 1, which I remember vividly, one of my favorite plays. And she was just so exciting. It was just so much fun in the room. And I also realized that other people weren't as excited about it as I was. So that was kind of interesting to me. That, I was really keen on it and I wanted to know more. And I felt that she drew us into the work, but that wasn't everybody's experience. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it would be. And so that spark led you to become a teacher and stepping into your own classroom for the very first time. How did your career path unfold?
I applied to Teachers College when I was in university and I didn't get in. And I think, I tell my student teachers this now. I was very disappointed, as was my family. But in the end, I found that it was really a good thing because I left university, I went into the workplace, and then I applied to U of T. I had some years of work under my belt and I could teach both business and English, which is what got me a job. Because at that time, it was kind of a weird combination to have, business and English. And I was just the right fit for the school. And I had to move. I moved to Guelph. I taught at Bishop Macdonell and had amazing administrators and department heads. So I was really fortunate.
So a bit of a gap year between what you thought, I'll step right from university into the Faculty of Education, and then that disappointment. And then you chose to work. How did that support, as you said, it helped you with the business English teaching, but how did that make you even more determined to work hard and apply again to the faculty?
I think I was working for about 5 or 6 years before I applied. I worked for architects and lawyers, and I did accounting. I did accounts payable and payroll. And I saw a lot of people really loving the work that they were doing. So the architects and the lawyers. And I thought, accounting is not my first love. I don't want to be an accountant, but I can teach people about accounting. So it's such a good question, Nicole. You just reminded me I went on a retreat. I met some people on that retreat, and one of the women, her boyfriend was a teacher. And so we ended up spending some time together. And I thought, wow, I really love what he's talking about. And that's what I want to be doing. So that's why I pursued it. So just that meeting and that sense of calling.
Almost serendipitous, Theresa, that, you have all these pointers go into what you love to do or what you want to pursue. Now, once you started teaching business and English at your first school, that's not where you ended after 30 years. You have quite a meandering career path. Why don't you share some of the different positions you held during your career?
Yeah, so I taught there for a couple of years, and then I got married and I moved back to the city and ended up in York Region. 16 years I taught at the same school, Aurora High School, and I taught English and drama and business. And, we had a principal who came there who really wanted us to start a drama program. And I said, oh, let me. And so then I took my additional qualifications, and that really changed so much about how I taught, because it kind of freed me up to try some different things in my English class. So I did that. And then we had a literacy initiative in York Region, which was amazing. So we would go every few weeks and learn something about literacy and then come back and teach our colleagues. And I was encouraged at that time to sort of take on teacher leadership. And I wasn't really that keen on it. I was a bit uncomfortable with, stepping in front of my colleagues. But I figured out that, everybody has something to share, and that, this was kind of a gift that I'd been given by other people. So I loved doing that, actually. And then I applied to the board, and I worked at the Ministry of Education for a little while. I was an assessment and literacy consultant, mostly in secondary. And then I was a vice principal. So lots of different things. I would say my favorite role was being in teacher leadership and helping teachers to do that across the curriculum. So yeah, I had a lot of good jobs.
I think that's what makes a 30-year career seem or go by so quick, because, you might be in a position for 5 years, another one in 7 years, but they're all different challenges, like starting a new job in a way. And with the combination of drama and the business that you were teaching and the English, you must have a zillion funny or memorable stories. Can you share one with us?
I guess, really teaching drama in high school is one of my favorite memories. And we would laugh every day. We would do improv, we would do this and that. But I think, putting on plays was a huge component of what we did. And I didn't have a theater background. So that was interesting. I remember once at one of the drama festivals, we were supposed to have the lights go out, and the lights didn't go out. And so then I have people coming across the stage that we're not supposed to see. We're just pretending we're not seeing them. Those kinds of things that in the moment you're anxious about, but you can laugh about it later.
Absolutely. Was there a favorite production you put on?
Well, I love that question, Nicole, because I was just thinking about it yesterday. There's a wonderful play called Our Town by Thornton Wilder, which doesn't require much of a set at all. And so I produced it twice, directed and produced it twice. And I have to say, it's one of the most beautiful plays ever. It's very simple, but it's about really appreciating your life while you're in it. That after I wrapped up teaching, I did a lot of work in mindfulness and compassion, which is actually what that play is all about. So it's funny how you don't know where you're going, and then you end up connecting those dots later on.
It's a beautiful picture we paint after the fact, because then we see where the connections and the influence happen. And I bet you it had a resounding impact on those students that practiced that play for months on end. Any chance you might know where those students ended up?
Well, it's wonderful that you asked that. Last year I went to Wales, and I also went to England. I went to London, and two of my students live in London.
Wow.
And I met them, and we met at the Globe. And so we had a lovely meal and a nice conversation about what they're doing. They're both artists. It's just wonderful to catch up with them. And then, I talked to some students, ex-students, on Facebook, and it's so amazing to hear what they're doing. And we had a reunion at the school that I taught at for years, and I had a couple message me and say, thank you.
Yeah.
And one in particular that really made me laugh was, I hope you remember me. I failed your grade 12 English class, and I know I was really a pain. You're a great teacher. I just wanted to thank you. And he also wanted to let me know that he runs his own company. He's married. He has 3 children, all of the details. And just to say, it wasn't your fault that I failed grade 12 English. And, I appreciate it. And I'm sorry.
Theresa, what a validation, because he obviously has so much respect for you, even though he did not pass your class. For him to contact you or let you know what his status is now is just incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting, because kids are in different places at different times. This young man went on to do very, very well in university, and he played professional golf, and now runs a software company. And then I have another one that is a celebrity chef, and that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I just he posts occasionally who he's with, and I mean it's amazing because I remember him so well in drama class. Very funny, very endearing young man. So yeah, lots of and I still live where I taught, so I see students very often, and I always feel really bad that I don't remember their names. But then they will place themselves for me, like they'll tell me, "Oh, I sat in this part," or "These people were in my room," or
Yeah, context. It's such a lovely gift to be able to journey with them, even if it's just a semester or 10 months of the year, and then for them to remember you so fondly all those years later. With an amazing 30-plus year career, there came a time where you said, "It's time for me to go." Tell us about some of these passions that keep you extremely busy in retirement.
So when I retired, I stayed on as a retired on contract administrator. So that was really good experience for me because I was then in elementary schools, which added to my understanding of really good teaching. And I continued studying compassion and mindfulness. I took my certifications in those areas. Then I went to Oxford for summer school. And then I was connecting all of that to, what we do in schools. And so I came up with some projects to do in schools, teaching teenagers, teaching mindfulness. I taught mindfulness during COVID online, but I felt that it was at least some kind of an offering. And then I had the opportunity to teach at Niagara University, to teach teacher candidates, which I really love. And then I wrote a book about teaching. So, I loved writing the book. It came very quickly. It only took me a couple months to write it, Nicole, to be honest. I'm a bit embarrassed saying that, but I feel like it took me 35 years to write it. It's based on current research, but also years and years of experience in figuring out how we support all of the students in the room. And we're thinking about all of the students in the room and making sure that they all feel welcome and they see themselves represented. So I'm still learning lots. I have lots to learn about AI and how we use that effectively in assessment. So I never have a dull day.
Oh, I believe you. Theresa, you exemplify the lifelong learner. And I want to backtrack a little bit because I want you said, you wrote the book in a couple of months, which is amazing, but it's 35 years that it percolated and helped you formulate. But tell us a little bit more about the book because it's a great resource for teachers.
So the book is about just-in-time feedback. So in the moment, how are we listening for learning and providing the feedback that moves everybody along? And it honors self-assessment and peer assessment, because I think those are the enduring gifts that we're giving students, that we have to be able to know where we're going and read the road signs along the way, self-assess and regroup and look to our colleagues or our collaborators to help us understand what we might do differently, what we might do better. So the book is very practical. The first few chapters are all about creating the foundations for students to learn, psychological safety, that sense of belonging that I talked about. And then the rest of it is really about lesson planning and creating the conditions in the classroom for teachers to listen in to students. My experience is that a lot of us talk too much, me included. So making sure that when I plan lessons, it's all about how the students are interacting with whatever the new information is.
And the book is called Assessment in Action. It's very practical for teachers who need to get over the thought of, if I have a great lesson plan, everything's going to go great. They need to learn about building those relationships in the classroom, which you address in the first couple of chapters. If listeners are interested in buying Assessment in Action, where can they get it, Theresa?
Through Pembroke Publishers, and it's also available on Amazon. I think it's a really great gift for new teachers, teacher candidates, but also for practicing teachers.
Amazing. And we'll put all the details in the show notes where they can purchase the book. And I think a lot of teaching is behavioral psychology and understanding how you invite people into a space or be part of a space or create the space. Those are all three different things in order for learning to flourish and be inviting to those that are gathering as the group. Now, I know you still have a little bit of a foot in teaching when you work with teacher candidates, but is there anything in particular you miss about the 8 to 4 plus hours of teaching?
I miss the collegiality, the collaboration. Now I'm at Niagara University, amazing people to work with there, but we don't see each other every day, but we're working together online. And actually I'm going to the University of Glasgow with some of the colleagues. We're presenting there.
You're going home in a sense.
Exactly. Full circle. And it's all about teacher presence and student flourishing. So that's what I miss most, is that opportunity to be with people and plan with people and, deliver sometimes with other people. So presenting with a colleague has always been fun. I worked with such amazing people in York Region who are still working. I kind of came to that late, being a consultant and being a vice principal, but I don't know, I think it gave me a special kind of wisdom from having been in the classroom for a long time.
It gives you the foundation, and then your perspective changes with the teachers that you end up supporting. You said you really enjoy working with the adults. I'm wondering, was there anything really unexpected once you retired from full-time work?
I think we have a view that when we retire, we'll just read books we like and go on vacations, which is nice. So we did a little bit of that. I went to Mexico. I went to Costa Rica on a couple of yoga retreats, and those were lovely. But all of the time, I'm always thinking about teaching and working. And I started reading more nonfiction after I retired. That's surprising that I continue to be really motivated to continue learning about teaching.
I think that solidifies that teaching, learning is your true passion, because this is something now you're seeking beyond being paid for it in a career. So it's such a wonderful thing to be able to pivot into that passion that you so enjoy. I want to know, with all that experience you have, Theresa, you must have so many different pieces of advice or wisdom that you want to give to beginning teachers, because you work with teacher candidates as well, middle year teachers and late career teachers. What advice would you impart for each of those groups?
I think one of the things that gets in the way when you're a new teacher is that you compare yourself with other people. And I don't know who said this, but the idea that comparison is the thief of joy. So really to be your own person as a teacher. So that sense of authenticity, I think, is really important. So allow yourself to be yourself. That doesn't mean you disregard the evidence about teaching. right? We need to have a repertoire and continue to be open to learning. I think that's true for everybody. And and then in the middle years, I think stepping out of your comfort zone to maybe a different grade or go to a new school or try a new subject or take an AQ, just something that is interesting and challenging. And also, I mean, I know in those middle years, we're really busy with our families and everything else. So I would say there, making sure we look after ourselves is really key in those middle years because it can be a lot and we can feel a bit burdened by it. And then later on, I mean, really just enjoy it and savor those relationships with kids and colleagues and keep in touch with your colleagues. I think it's really important because sometimes when we retire, we've lost contact with people. And now we have social media to keep us all connected. One of the things that I haven't mentioned, before COVID, I started a book club. And honestly, it has been going strong. We meet every month. Like I post on Instagram, but we meet by Zoom every month. And these are all people that I worked with over the years. All women. No men have invited themselves into the group. But it's wonderful because we didn't even all work that closely together. A number of them were superintendents, some from a high school that I taught at. So they've all kind of met through me. And it's really fantastic.
What a celebration to be able to connect with colleagues in that fashion, still have that intellectual stimulation, but also keep it a little bit social in that regard. And they say for longevity in retirement really comes down to maintaining your health as best you can. And relationships are vital so that as you age, you don't become isolated within your own home or your community. So that is amazing.
There's 60 people in the club, but we don't all get together. Usually we have, 8 people, 10 people. But people will follow along on Instagram and say, what about this book? What about this? What would you recommend? And sometimes we pick books that none of us, but we haven't read yet, right? So, and it might be somewhat out of, like we wouldn't normally pick that. And so that's fun too, because it stretches you. And we don't all agree that we love the book. That's fine, but we're okay with that conversation. We always find something in it to talk about.
I think that's great advice. You're giving solid advice for those beginning teachers, those middle career teachers, when everything is very busy with a growing family, for example, and late career teachers to solidify some of these connections so that when you pivot into retirement, you still feel like you belong somewhere in that sense, because teachers' identities are closely tied to their career choice. Theresa, I'm wondering, with all the experience that you have, your life experience, having a full-time work before you became a teacher, if you could go back in time, is there anything you would do differently, the way that your career unfolded, particularly in regards to retirement planning?
I don't know that I would do anything differently. I mean, I think I should have given more time to my physical health than I did when I was working full-time. And so now I have some time for that, to get out for a walk every day, which I find really pleasurable. I don't think that I would change my career. Being a vice principal was not something that I had planned. But I learned so much doing that role about some of the things that you don't see in your own classroom. So I would encourage people to really think about, teacher leadership or school leadership. I think it stretches you in a way that can be very uncomfortable sometimes. But in the end, it helps you to understand yourself as well. And also to be really a contribution to the school, seeing yourself not as a position of authority, but being a sounding board for people who are struggling sometimes families, sometimes kids, sometimes teachers, just being that ear that makes space for people, not telling anybody what to do, just allowing them an opportunity to voice what's difficult for them or what they're happy about.
And in relation to retirement planning, did you always know the date that you were going to retire, or was it more of a feeling, I'm starting to get tired, I want to do some other things, or how did you plan for that retirement move?
I actually was past my retirement time. I think I was 3 or 4 years past. I'd had some health issues, so I was sick for a bit. And I was well past the age where you're thinking about, I'd like to be the principal someday. I really wanted to do more teacher leadership, more instructional leadership. That's really my thing. Although, I had a great privilege of working with amazing people. And, I love the kids in the school I was at. And being we call them rock stars in York Region, the people who come back on contract. That was a great opportunity. I did that for 8 or 9 years. So just coming in and doing part of a semester, and again, stretches you because it's difficult and they don't know you. But also, I love the liveliness of schools. So when you get opportunities to go back and be in a school or do something in a school, really appreciate that. Yeah, I like having the time now to just focus on something I want to read or something I want to write. Or, I love literature, I like to write poetry, investigate different things.
It's really Theresa time, and you deserve to have Theresa time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And without getting into too many specifics, Theresa, personal specifics, what financial planning did you do, if any, before you decided to retire or throughout your career?
I mean, not a great deal. My husband is also a teacher, and, I'm pretty modest in what I need. I don't have aspirations to have a bigger home or anything like that, or travel for a long period of time. So I'm, comfortable enough that I'm fine. And our kids are doing well. So just very fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. We're lucky with our teacher's pension and any smart moves we might have made during our career that helped us make little investments here and there, for sure. Theresa, we've reached the part of the show where I ask every guest to contribute a gem, that golden piece of wisdom, which I know you have many of, But that one piece of wisdom that you would like to share for full-time teachers or educators working hard every day in the schools.
I think one of the most important things I learned when I left my own classroom and I went to work in the board office was the importance of being open-minded and collaborating with other people. So, I was early in my career, I worked with an amazing department where we went in and out of each other's classrooms and we assessed work together. And then when I went to curriculum, I discovered that was really a fantastic teaching tool, a fantastic way for us to grow. So, I'd recommend to people that they find people to collaborate with, even people that they don't know that well, and be open-minded about, how other people do things and see if you can learn something from that. So that's really important. And then the other piece that I would share is around teacher well-being. We need to look after ourselves, not just for ourselves, but for our families and for our students. And I think it's often overlooked or we pay lip service to it. But the inner journey of, the inner landscape. There's a wonderful book called The Courage to Teach by Parker Palmer, where he talks about how knowing ourselves as teachers is so crucial to the work that we do in our classrooms. So the journey of self-awareness, who am I? What are my gifts? How can I contribute? I love the idea of being a contribution. So we've all got something special, and taking time to figure out what that is and how you can share with other people. So living into your truth is I guess the gem for me.
Well said. I think that opportunity to collaborate with others and reflect on your personal well-being makes you a better teacher. No guilt attached to that, by the way. So thank you for that gem. Wonderful. Theresa, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for sharing all your wonderful stories and the work that you're doing. And I'm going to remind the listeners that if they're interested in your book, which I highly recommend, and like you said, it would make a great gift for any beginning teacher, but teachers in general. It's called Assessment in Action, and we will provide the links in the show notes. Theresa, thanks again for being with us today.
Thanks, Nicole. It was a pleasure.
Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you know when new episodes are uploaded. We'd also love to hear your feedback. Leave a review or connect with us on Instagram or Facebook at 85 After School. Hey, if you're interested in being a guest, be sure to email us directly, 85afterschool@gmail.com. That's 85afterschool@gmail.com. Until the next episode, be good to yourself